This is the Naked Mormon History travel log, cross-country style, for March 23rd, 2017. Today was a bit of a traveling day. I spent a total of about 13 and a half hours in the car. But, of course, I couldn't spend a day driving across the country without making a couple of stops. Now, I know this is a Mormon history tour, but unfortunately across South Dakota there aren't too many Mormon history hotspots. But what I did hit was Mount Rushmore, which was surprisingly anticlimactic. It's not quite as grandiose as all of the pictures that I've seen of it are. However, it was still a very beautiful monument, and I'm not saying any of this to disparage the beauty that is encapsulated in the Black Hills of South Dakota and in the sculpture of Mount Rushmore. But it was really still cool to see this national monument and, kind of walk around the little museum that they have there and whatnot. It was interesting to say the least. And then, of course, I hopped back on the road because I still had 8.5, almost 9 hours ahead of me in order to get to Minneapolis, where I'm spending the night with my co-host, Marie Kent. She's just so awesome for giving me the couch to sleep on for the night. It's awful nice of her. But of course, on the drive back, or on the drive to Minneapolis, my GPS estimated that I was going to be here, I guess I should say, at 11 o'clock at night, which is a bit of a problem because Marie has two cute little boys and I didn't want to wake them up. Little Malcolm and Oliver, just cute little buggers. But if any of you have driven across southern Wyoming, you know that there's Little America, Wyoming. And it's just in this crop out of the middle of nowhere. There's nothing, and apropos of absolutely zero civilization anywhere near it. But you're traveling along, and for like the 100 miles on either side, east and west of Little America, there are billboards that it's like, 49-cent cones and, stay the night, and it's advertising it. Well, I happened upon some of those billboards, and I told myself over and over, I don't have time. But I kept seeing these billboards for a premier auto museum, I guess you can call it. It was something. Not to get ahead of myself. So I kept passing these billboards over and over. I'm like, I'm going to get there at 11 o'clock already. If I go to a car museum, being the car junkie gearhead that I am, I'm going to spend a couple hours there. There's no way that I can go. So I just kept passing these billboards, passing. And finally, it got to the last one, and it's like, this is your last chance to see the Murdo, South Carolina, or the Murdo, South Dakota auto show. And I didn't have any power. My car just steered off of the freeway. I'm like, I got to stop for gas anyway. So the car just sort of wandered off on its own, and somehow I ended up in the parking lot of this auto show. It was the most baffling thing I've ever experienced. I spent a total of 28 minutes going through this auto museum, and it was the coolest thing, because I love old cars. I'm a huge junkie for old cars. Of course, I'm most familiar with ones that I grew up with in my generation, but I love old cars, especially early 1900s cars when they were really wonky and crazy, and anybody could make a car. I mean, going on to the 50s and 60s, you got the big three that were the primary manufacturers in America. But anything before that, you get some really, really wonky shit. And they were advertising all kinds of old cars, and there was no way that I could just not go see it. So I stopped in, and it was the most amazing thing. And just like Little America, it's an apropos of nothing else around. It's this tiny little town. There's not a major city within 200 miles of either direction of it. There's nothing else out there in this podunk South Dakota town except this auto museum. And it was astounding. all that I could do, they had it set up like this old, like 1950s kind of town facade where they had like separate barns all through this little tiny town thing. And they had like an old schoolhouse, an old rail yard, all kinds of just really rustic looking antiquities, antiquities from the early 20th century, I guess I should say. And cars, trucks. They had an entire tractor barn where I saw a Lamborghini and a Porsche tractor, which not many people know that, but Lamborghini and Porsche, that's where they got their start, was building tractors. And then they eventually got into the automotive industry in the 1940s and the 1960s, respectively. It was astonishing to see all of these cars. They even had an original General Lee, one of them that was actually shot in the movies. They had an old Woody car that was a 1920 built, custom-made, solid oak wood car. The most amazing thing I've ever seen, like stylistic and sleek. It was 25 feet long, just this monstrosity of a car. I can't even describe all of it. It was the coolest thing. And I didn't even notice when I walked through the first room, that was where they had the General Lee, and they had a late 90s Viper RT10 and an old Chevelle and a few other really sweet cars. I walked in and I just snapped every picture that I possibly could. I didn't even notice on my way back through that they had an entire wall of like a gun museum wall. And just hanging up on the wall, just a ton of old guns from as early as like the late 1800s all the way up until like World War II relics. They had an old Ma Deuce training gun, the one that had the action removed and exposed so you could see into the bolt and everything. I mean, it was just the coolest possible thing. But the problem is, there's nothing anywhere else. I sent a bunch of pictures to my dad because he's a car junkie like me. And I'm like, we got to go to South Dakota. And the thought hit me, it's like, there's nothing else out here to see. There's not even an airport within 300 miles of this place. It's just, if you're ever passing through South Dakota and you're a car junkie gearhead like me, you have to do it. Yeah, even if it's just to go see the old Indian motorcycles and Elvis Presley's Harley. I mean, just going to see those. There was like an old 1960s Honda motorcycle. I didn't even know those things existed. I mean, they had this old. It was an 8-wheel motorcycle car cockpit thing. It was just, it looked like a little, like the capsule of a fighter jet, with really big fenders, almost kind of like a Caterham looks right now. And it had 8 wheels, and the 4 front wheels articulated, and there were 4 rear wheels that I assume were, the drive wheels. And it was just, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. All of these extremely rare cars, and primarily all American made. I mean, I'm sure there were some European cars in there, but I just running through it in my mind right now, I can't think of any. It was all just great old American cars. And the majority of them were from the 1910s to the 1940s. They had an entire Mustang barn that was just all old Mustangs, all the way from 65 convertible up to they had a GT500 Eleanor there. It wasn't the Gone in 60 Seconds black or gray or silver with black stripes Eleanor, but it was the later model Eleanor. It just I could not believe it. But that is officially the fastest I have ever run through a museum, and the most pictures I have ever taken of any museum. And the greatest thing is, I'm going through this in the middle to the end of March. There was nobody else there to get in my way and to crowd the pictures. And they had some cars out that you could, that weren't behind, like chains. So you could, like little kids could go on them and, play in the cabin and stuff. There were no kids. There was nobody there to even see it. It was just me and like 2 other people that were wandering around, and I was jogging from barn to barn to barn to see all of the cars. It's just amazing. So that's pretty much my travel log. I mean, I guess the only reason that I'm sharing this is because I'm doing this this cross-country tour for Mormon history, but I'm a human being with plenty of other interests as well, and I just couldn't help but share this little insight into my one of my other personal interests that I don't necessarily, usually make public. But it was great, just so much fun to go through that. Murdo, South Dakota, go there if you can. I can't recommend it high enough. It was great. Other than that, I arrived at 11:35 here at Marie's, and I met her two little boys the next morning, and they're just so cute and incredibly intelligent. I guess I don't know much about Malcolm because he's 20 months old, but Oliver, little 4-year-old kid, he's a really smart kid. My nephew is he's just about to hit a year in middle of April, and to see these toddlers that are the next stages of life that Hunter's going to be going into, it's really exciting to see this. I'm really getting excited to meet and to kind of grow with Hunter as he gets older and older. Just some kind of personal reminiscences. It may have been a long day of driving. I may have got on the road at 8:15 and ended my day at 11:30 at night, but it was a very fun and full day, and I listened to a lot of Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. So, this is your travel log, the Naked Mormon History travel log for March 23rd, 2017. Thanks for listening.